I'd like to show you how to get started with Terracotta 3.1 for Hibernate, a full-featured distributed cache for Hibernate. In just a few simple steps. If you go to terracotta.org, click on the Hibernate tab, then click on the Get Started page. This page shows in a number of steps how to get Terracotta working, and we'll go through those steps in the next couple of minutes. The first step is to download and install Terracotta. So we'll click the download link, and we'll download the installer version of the Terracotta kit. It also comes in a tar gzip archive, but we'll download the installer. And once that's finished downloading, we'll go to the download location and we'll run java-jar and then the Terracotta installation binary, and it will run the installer. You have to accept the Terracotta public license agreement, and then it'll install in the default location. Once it's installed, we'll quit the installer. I like to move it to user local, because that's where I tend to keep things. So I will move it from its default installation location to user local. And then I also like to create a symbolic link from the specific version to a canonical name, because it makes things easier later. Terracotta 3.1, we'll symlink it to Terracotta. Okay, so now we've downloaded and installed Terracotta. The next step is to download and install the Examinator reference application that we'll be using to demonstrate the Hibernate caching functionality. So we'll download Examinator. It downloads immediately. And when that's done downloading, I like to install Examinator in a little my work directory. So the way you do that is with tar. And it'll extract it to the current directory. I also like to do the symlink trick here, because again it makes things a little easier. So I link Examinator specific version to a canonical name. The next step is to once we've unpacked it, we upgrade or we install the Terracotta integration modules that are used by Examinator. You can see if we go into Examinator and we look at the configuration for Terracotta, you can see this modules list. These are Terracotta modules are prepackaged pieces of functionality that are distributed as what we call Terracotta integration modules, or TIMs for short. They're essentially just jar files, either pure configuration or configuration plus code, depending on the functionality we're trying to deliver. But Examinator, which is a full-fledged web application, uses a fair number of modules, including, as you see here, Hibernate, TIM Hibernate cache. So we'll run TIM get, which is our module acquisition facility. Comes with the Terracotta distribution, and we'll run, as you can see in the steps here, we'll run install for, and then we say tcconfig.xml. That means install, and you can run the help command to find out more about TimGet. But install for basically acquires the TIMs that are declared in the tcconfig.xml that you specify. So here we'll We'll say install for tcconfig.xml, and now it will go download from Terracotta the TIMs that are required by that application. So now we've gotten all of the packages that we need. We'll start the Terracotta server. I like to do it from the Terracotta directory, although that's just out of habit. You can run it from wherever you'd like. Start tcserver.sh. Now the Terracotta server is running. Now, under a production environment, I'd probably be running the Terracotta server on its own machine, but I'm doing everything on my laptop, so we'll run everything for demo purposes on a single computer. But typically, this would be on a different machine. So now that I've started the Terracotta server, I need to set up and start the H2 database that Examinator uses. H2 is a Java SQL database. So I'll start a new terminal for that because I'm keeping the Terracotta server running in the other terminal. So we want to move back into Examinator and run h2db start. Now that starts the H2 server, and it'll start running in the background. Then the next step is to run create examdb. That's this H2DB is a wrapper script that we built that has the function create examdb, which will create the schema. Just a little bit of setup to set up for running Examinator. The actual data that we'll be using inside of Examinator is pre-populated when you start Examinator for the first time. So we've set up the database. Now we're going to start the Examinator reference application. We're actually going to start two instances of it. One listening on port 8080 and the other listening on port 8081 because we want to test the clustered distributed cache functionality. So we need to set the environment variable tcinstalldir to where we've installed Terracotta on Unix flavors. It's export tcinstalldir and then the path to Terracotta, and then we're going to start. We're going to run the start cluster command inside of the Examinator bin directory, and that will start two instances of, in this case, Jetty, that are configured to listen to the appropriate separate ports, so you don't get port collision when you're running it on a single laptop. Again, you'd probably be running these two instances on different computers. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to do it on my laptop. One other thing, we want to make sure that they started up properly. So we'll look inside of this work directory. You can see inside of the work directory there's a sort of working area for the web server listening on port 8080. Another one for the one listening on port 8081, and a working directory for the H2 database server. So let's look at the console log for the web server listening on port 8080. You can see it's under work 8080 logs console log. And we'll just look down at the end to make sure that there were no errors. Sometimes if there's some environmental problems or you forget to start the H2DB server, you might get some errors in this log. We just want to make sure that it started up without any trouble. Now we'll also check the one for 8081. And again, this one looks okay too, so we're good to go with the Examinator instances. So we're ready to log into Examinator, and we'll start taking an exam. And the exam is represented in the Examinator application as Hibernate entities. there's sections and questions and question choices, and those are all represented as different entities. And Examinator comes packaged with Hibernate second level caching turned on for those entities. So what's going to happen when we log in? I'll log in as in a separate tab. Now you have to have, this is pointing at my local host. So when you try it, you have to make sure you have Examinator running, or this link won't actually go anywhere. So I'm going to log in as user student1, as you can see here, with password 1. That's the default student login. Password 1. And I'll log in. Now I'm logged in on the 8081, or sorry, the 8080 instance. Now I'm going to take an exam. Gives me a list of exams to start taking. Now if I'm actually going to take the exam, now as you can see, I've got a few questions I can answer. It doesn't really matter what questions what the answers are, but there's 14 questions, and I can skip around here. This is just a fairly straightforward web app. Now, the way to look at the cache activity that Terracotta's supporting is to view the Hibernate cache in the Terracotta Developer Console. Terracotta comes with this pretty cool console that shows you all kinds of things about what is happening inside of your cluster. Now, it gets its data from the Terracotta server, so we connect to the Terracotta server. And over here on the left, you can see lots of information about your server. We'll focus today on the Hibernate information that is available through the Dev Console. And the first screen you see here is the standard Hibernate statistics that come with a vanilla installation of Hibernate. But what we're able to do is show you the aggregated, clustered view onto the Hibernate statistics, as well as per client or per application server stats. But this is the sort of aggregated cluster view. And then also we have specific statistics on the cache performance that Terracotta is delivering. So these are instantaneous meters that show you both a global cache performance and per region cache performance. Right now, since there's no activity, there's no meter activity. So we'll click through a few questions here in the Examinator, and remember that the questions, now you can see the questions themselves are entities. So these question lookups are resulting in cache hits because we've already cached all of the entities for the exam. Now, the interesting part is when I visit the other web server on port 8081. Now, this could be on a separate machine. It's a totally different Java process. It'll load up my current web state, including my Webflow state. This uses Spring Webflow, so the Webflow state is kept available even if I go to different JVMs. You see that the questions that I've answered and the particular answers that I've made are still kept consistent, and also I'm still hitting the cache on the other server. That's because the cache is a clustered cache, a distributed cache that's automatically enabled behind the Hibernate entities. You can see how much database load you're diverting by looking at these graphs. Now you can see the instantaneous graphs, but you can also look at statistics over time in the statistics panel. So you can see my cache hits. Now let's go back to the overview tab and disable cache regions, and that'll basically purge the cache, and all subsequent requests for these exam entities will result in cache misses. That's because we've turned the cache off. Now I've disabled it for all cache regions for the entire cluster, all at a single stroke. So you can see load has returned back to the database. Again, you can see, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Cache. You can watch the statistics here. See our SQL execution rate spike back up. This means that instead of reading from cache, I'm reading from the database. And then we'll turn the caching back on, and you'll see I get a miss, but I also get some subsequent hits. And then as I continue to move through this, I get all cache hits again, right? Okay, and then I'll do it just one more time. I'll flip back over to the other web server to show that the cache is clustered. So there were no cache misses, even though I'm hitting a different JVM. You can also change some configuration settings here. You can turn caching on and off per region, or evict all of my entries per region. So now I've got no caching for that particular region, and I can look back at my overview and see that I get some hits and some misses because some of my regions are cached and some of them aren't. And then I can go back and turn it back on. And then I can also change the time to idle, which is the time that it takes to invalidate a cache entry based on its idleness. So if the application doesn't make a request for the cache entry within this time window, the cache entry will be invalidated. Similarly, I can change the time to live, which is the maximum age, irrespective of how often you read that cache entry, that the cache entry can be before it is invalidated. And then I have a couple of other options. I can change my target max in memory count, and the target max total count. Now if I change these things and I want to make that my default, I can generate a cache configuration, which is an XML snippet that you can copy into the Terracotta configuration that we saw here. So I would copy that and paste it into my Terracotta configuration. So that concludes the Terracotta for Hibernate Getting Started tutorial using a sample application. The next step is to configure Terracotta for your own Hibernate application. That tutorial can be found on the next page of the Hibernate section of terracotta.org. Get started with your app. Thanks for watching.